Now, Indiana Governor and Republican Vice Presidential nominee Mike Pence is with us now. First question, obviously, is how are you? How is your family? What happened?
Yeah, we're great, thank God. Just very grateful for the concern expressed for us. It was about 10 seconds of uncertainty as we landed. We had a low ceiling, came in. But once we were on the ground, you could tell they were trying to stop the aircraft as quickly as possible. It slid back and forth a little bit, then left the runway, but all are well.
Well, your wife Karen is here, and she said she's a pilot. So
she's a pilot.
So she said she wasn't too worried.
No.
What did you think was happening at the time? Were you worried?
No, you know, we.
At least you're on the ground.
You know, our son is a Marine Corps aviator. Our son Michael likes to say, you know, every landing that you walk away from is a successful landing. Everybody was fine.
Did you smell the burned rubber?
We did. You know, once the plane came to a stop, we noticed that there was mud on the windows on our front half of the plane, and we smelled the burned rubber. But it was over quickly. I'm so grateful to the first responders. They were virtually on the scene before the plane stopped rolling. Grateful to the pilots, everyone involved, and we're back on the campaign trail today.
Good. I'm glad you're here.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about the state of the campaign. Let me ask you first about this. CBS News has learned that law enforcement officials are concerned about the potential for violence on Election Day, and they actually point to a number of threats from supporters of your campaign. Do you have a message about that?
Well, we certainly would denounce you know, any calls for anything other than people vigorously being involved in the electoral process. But I have to tell you, it's reading some of these stories a little hard to take. After we saw the video that came out that operatives for the Democratic National Party were actually paid to go to Trump rallies to incite violence. I think that's deeply offensive to millions of Americans, whatever your politics. But I have to tell you, I really just don't see it. Campaigning in Iowa yesterday, campaigning out west earlier this week. I mean, the people that are rallying around this team, rallying around our cause, love this country, are passionate about this country, and are anxious to see change. And I truly do believe we're going to have a great day come Election Day when we elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States.
But do you feel incumbent, even though you're absolutely right, people care about the country and are patriots, but they sometimes go too far. Do you feel like it's necessary to reassure the country and those people that we have to respect the election results and we cannot resort to any kind of violence?
Well, well, of course, we all feel that way, that are all of us involved in the political process. But I do have to tell you, Charlie, I mean, to have some of these headlines this morning that I saw in the newspaper, in the wake of very little coverage of the fact that the Democratic National Party had operatives going to Trump campaigns to incite violence. I could just tell you, the people that I see when I'm campaigning for Donald Trump and with Donald Trump, these are people that just, they care about this country, that really are tired of seeing a weakened America's place in the world. They're tired of seeing a stifled American economy. They're frustrated with Obamacare, where we learned from this administration 25% increases on average in our Obamacare premiums in 2017. The American people know we can do better. They know we can be stronger, we can be more prosperous. And that passion, I think, is going to translate into a great victory.
Your running mate has been very vocal about a rigged election. He's concerned about a rigged election. Are you concerned about that as well?
Well, I think when Donald Trump talks about a rigged election, I think, you know, with all due respect, I think it's been documented. I mean, the level of negative coverage about my running mate in many quarters in the national media has just been overwhelming compared with any negative coverage of frankly, the avalanche of scandals coming out of Hillary Clinton's years as Secretary of State.
But in the history of the country, the chances of a rigged election are so very rare.
But my point is, I think he talks about the media, it seems to many Americans, is trying to rig the election in a way that favors Hillary Clinton. It seems like they do half her work for her every day. But make no mistake about it, there are many instances in our lifetimes of voter fraud in individual polling places and in certain jurisdictions. And Donald Trump and I are just calling on people to respectfully participate in the electoral process. I mean, but we want a victory on Election Day, but we also want it to be a victory for American democracy.
Why did you go to Utah?
I was making a western swing. I was out in Colorado and out in Nevada, and really delivering a message this week, particularly that while we've attracted...
That's a state that should be kind of in the safe column, and in the last 2 weeks of the campaign, I mean, your time is valuable. Does that suggest that this campaign is more difficult for you in some of these states, that you had not predicted.
Well, I think, as you know, there's a unique situation in Utah. We're leading in the polls.
Candidate, yeah.
But my message this week, as I've traveled from the very beginning of the week, Donald Trump's message as well, is not only do we need to win the White House, but we need to re-elect Republican majorities in the House and Senate. To do those things, my message is, with all the support we're getting from independents, from the support we're getting from many Democrats, now it's time for Republicans to come home. I know we went through a 17-way primary. I watched it from afar. Still some divisions within our Republican ranks. My message in Utah was to say it's time for Republicans to come home, to elect Donald Trump as president, re-elect a Republican Congress, and make sure Hillary Clinton's never elected president of the United States.
Governor Pence, always glad to have you at the table, but really glad today that you and your family and your team are okay.
Thank you so much. It's such a blessing to hear from people around the country, the prayers and concerns, but we're all fine.
We all want you to be okay. Thanks again, sir.